Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us some really fascinating material this time. These are excerpts from a parenting podcast, Parent Talk. Growing words.
That's right, yeah. Parent Talk with Sam and Maya. And these clips, they're just little snapshots, really, of them talking about their kids and language.
Specifically how their young children are, picking up words, starting to talk more.
Exactly. And it's incredibly relatable stuff, I think, whether you're a parent or you just remember vaguely, perhaps, learning to talk yourself or seeing kids do it. It's fascinating.
Absolutely. And your interest, our listeners' interest, in these specific bits about vocabulary development, that's what we really want to explore today. Our goal isn't just to, list what Sam and Maya said. We want to really get into the why, why the funny pronunciations, why the sudden leaps.
And the parent's role in all of it.
Yes, exactly. How much influence do they have? We want to unpack what these moments, these anecdotes, tell us about how language learning actually works deep down.
It's such a brilliant lens for looking at early cognitive development, isn't it? And what jumps out right away, for me anyway, from these excerpts is just how much Sam and Maya clearly delight in it all.
Oh, yeah.
Even the mistakes. Sam talking about bananas for bananas. He wasn't correcting. He was almost like enjoying it.
Right, that extra syllable thing.
Yeah. And that often shows a child's first attempts at figuring out the sounds, the phonology, breaking words down into chunks they can manage.
Even if it's not quite right yet.
Exactly. It shows they're developing this internal, you could call it a rule book, sort of, for how language sounds. It's active learning.
That's a great way to put it, the rule book.
Yeah.
And Maya's story about remembering Pisgetti, I loved that.
Yeah.
It feels like more than just a cute mistake somehow.
Oh, absolutely. These aren't just random flubs. They often show you where the child is in understanding sounds and how words are built. Phonics, basically.
Okay.
Their brains are working really hard to make sense of everything they're hearing. And the fact that these mistakes are often consistent.
Like always adding the syllable to banana.
Precisely. That tells us they're developing phonetic awareness. They're starting to hear the individual sound units, the phones, inside the words. It's quite sophisticated, really.
And then there's the speed. Sam mentions his kid going from pretty basic words to suddenly dropping technically into a sentence.
Yes.
I feel like you blink and boom, their vocabulary has just exploded.
That's such a classic feature of early language learning. These vocabulary spurts, as they're sometimes called, periods of really rapid word learning.
Right, spurts.
And they often line up with other developmental leaps, thinking skills improving or social interaction. And the amazing thing is it's not just memorizing. Kids often do this thing called fast mapping.
That's mapping.
Yeah, it's where they can basically grab onto a new word and roughly figure out its meaning after hearing it just once or maybe a few times. It's incredibly efficient.
Wow.
And then they start using it, maybe experimenting with it, like Sam's son using technically, so specifically. They integrate it really fast.
That makes Maya's story about her daughter saying actually and correcting her about dolphins. Well, it's funny, but it makes more sense now.
It does. It's hilarious, but it shows so much more than just parroting a word, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It shows that language is tied up with understanding concepts. She's not just saying actually, she's using it to, dispute a fact.
She thinks her mom is wrong about the dolphins.
Exactly. Which shows she's developing an understanding of, facts versus non-facts and how to use language in a social context, like correction. And it also makes you wonder, where did she learn dolphins aren't fish?
Good point. Conversations, maybe? Books? TV?
Probably. It points straight to how powerful their environment is, the input they get.
Which leads really well into that other thing Sam and Maya talked about, kids mirroring their parents' language.
Oh, yeah. The seriously moment.
Yes. Sam drops the cereal, and his son just parrots seriously. Right back at him. It's so relatable. And maybe a little alarming. Makes you think about what else they're picking up.
It really hammers home the role of modeling, doesn't it? Kids are absolute sponges. They don't just learn the words we actively try to teach them. They absorb our tone, our phrasing, even those little verbal habits we don't notice we have. Like Maya saying, I need a minute to process.
Yeah. My kids started saying, hang on a second, exactly like I do.
See? They internalize these patterns and then bam, out they come, often when you least expect it. And it's not just simple copying, it's how they learn the sort of social dance of conversation.
It really does make you hyper aware of how you talk around them, doesn't it? Those little phrases you repeat without thinking.
Definitely.
But is it always mirroring? I mean, are there times kids don't sound like their parents? What else influences them?
Oh, that's a really interesting question because Yeah, while parents are usually the primary models, it's not the only influence. A child's own personality plays a part. And think about peers, older siblings, other caregivers, school, media. They might pick up slang or different ways of talking from friends, for instance. They're building their own way of speaking, using all the input they get.
Right, it's not just a direct copy.
Not entirely, no, it's more complex.
Okay. And then they also touched on those vocabulary leaps again, but more towards complex words. Going from, car and juice to things like hilarious or disappointed.
Yes, that's another big step.
It feels like unlocking a new level or something.
It kind of is. It often happens as their thinking gets more sophisticated. They start understanding more abstract ideas.
Ah, right. Like hilarious isn't just funny, it's very funny. It needs a concept of humor.
Exactly. And disappointed involves understanding expectations and that they weren't met. Using those words shows their emotional and cognitive worlds are expanding.
So their understanding grows, and the vocabulary sort of catches up to let them talk about it.
Precisely. It allows them to articulate those more nuanced feelings and observations.
And Maya's way of dealing with Pisgetti, gently correcting it but still loving the cute version, that sounded like a good approach.
It really is. It's a great balance. You acknowledge their attempt, you show you understand them, which is validating, but you also casually offer the correct word as a model. Oh, you want some spaghetti? Not making a big deal out of it, not shaming them.
So they don't clam up.
Right. It encourages them to keep trying, keep experimenting with language. It's like providing scaffolding for their learning, supporting them as they build.
Scaffolding, I like that. And their point about reading really landed, too.
Oh, hugely important.
Sam's son seeing squirrels and talking about terrible tusks and terrible claws from the Gruffalo. That's such a clear link.
It's a perfect example. Books just flood kids with words and sentence structures they might not hear day to day.
Yeah.
And repetition in kids' books helps things stick. Plus, the pictures link words to meanings. But connecting book phrases to the real world like that shows real integration. It's not just reading words, it's understanding and applying.
And Maya's final point, just the basic importance of talking with kids. Asking questions, bringing them into the conversation. It seems so simple, but crucial.
Absolutely fundamental. Language learning isn't passive. It thrives on interaction.
Right.
Chatting with them, even when they're tiny, exposes them to everything. New words, grammar, turn-taking, listening. It encourages them to use language to engage with the world. It's that back and forth that really builds their skills.
So looking back at these clips from Sam and Maya, these themes really do stand out, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
The charm, but also the meaning behind those early unique words like bananas.
Yep. The cognitive work happening there.
And the sheer speed sometimes, that vocabulary spurt, the fast mapping.
Amazing speed.
Then there's the mirroring, how much they soak up from us, the parents.
For better or worse sometimes.
Right. And finally, that balance Maya talked about, gently guiding them towards correctness, but also just celebrating the whole messy, wonderful process of learning.
Yeah, cherishing the Pisgetti stage while still teaching spaghetti.
So connecting this maybe to the bigger picture, these everyday stories from Sam and Maya, they really do give us a peek into something pretty profound, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
Yeah.
They show that fundamental human drive we all have to communicate, to make sense of the world, to connect.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for our listeners, thinking about why you shared these specific clips. Reflect on your own experiences, maybe, your childhood, or kids you know now.
What do these early fumblings with language, these bananas and pisgettis, what do they really tell us about how humans learn to understand sound, figure out rules, connect ideas to words?
Yeah.
Because they're really not just cute mistakes, are they? They seem more like, well, like essential first steps, building blocks for language, and maybe even for thought itself.
That is a really fascinating way to think about it. A great point to end on. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us into Parent Talk Growing Words.
My pleasure. It was great material to discuss.
Hopefully it's given everyone listening a maybe fresh perspective on just how amazing language learning is.
Yes, and thank you for bringing it to us. Keep noticing those language moments in your own lives.
And thanks to all of you for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.